Welcome, J.M. Hunter, Columbus fellow creator and someone who's been with SoulCon since the beginning, who will actually be onboarding this coming year to really help with next year's logistics. Really happy to have you here, J.M.
Thank you for having me. Again, SoulCon's been such a big part of my life, and happy to be able to represent that within this Mixing of the Media exhibition, as well as having a few of my pieces in this show. So starting with this one, I tend to change the names of my paintings as my thought process changes or evolves, or as my mood changes. So some of these paintings have had multiple names, but this one, as of now, is called America's Greatest Hits. And the reason why it's done that is because I utilize lyrics from what can be considered classic rock or during the Woodstock Revolution. And a lot of people tend to think back to the good old times and everything like that, but the good old times were, for a lot of other people, especially marginalized groups, were times of struggle, times of trying to fight for their place, within our society. Well, some of them, redefining their identity as not second-class citizens, but as true American citizens, and a fight that continues to this day. So I felt like by taking specific aspects of lyrics, I was able to tell a story of a period, 60s, 70s, and and 80s, and even the good, the bad, as far as, but all of it revolves around struggle, because I feel like it's a struggle that's still happening. So obviously certain iconic imagery might, make one think about Trayvon Martin over here. Unfortunately, many of our young, black males and brown males are being incarcerated for nonviolent offenses, as well as just now brutalized and killed. And then there's also issues with comes to domestic, and domestic issues sometimes will come from alcohol abuse, drug abuse, but most of the time it's related to class and economic poverty. So put people in a hot box long enough, not give them any money or any chance to improve themselves or their plight, and eventually stressors start to spill out, and eventually, unfortunately, some of the outcomes aren't always, most times aren't always positive. And then obviously right here is the struggle, so, and the constant will to fight, the will to fight to power, Descartes, cogito. I think, therefore I am, the will to power. So I've always felt that between that and Aristotle's teleology were two Western philosophies that I kind of play around with in my work, as well as my thinking about how to progress and improve myself. Moving on, we have my first glass piece ever, which here at the Glass Axis, I was lucky enough to given a scholarship to do a workshop here with Joe Cavalieri, which was really awesome. First time working in this medium, and I still wanted to bring the storytelling element of my comic background and just telling stories with my colors and imageries. And in this case, we were taking a fable from Aesop's fable and to translate that into the medium of glass. So the one I picked was the two goats. I tend to like goats as an animal. I really enjoy drawing them. I just like goats. So monkeys, goats, and wolves and wolverines is pretty much what I like. But goats have always been something I've been fascinated with drawing and doing art with. So the idea of the two goats butting heads on a bridge and not giving it an inch to move one past another, to progress one another, can be taken metaphorically. It can be taken metaphorically in the sense that you have one goat that wants to go backwards, and maybe not progress, and likes the way the status quo is. Then you have another that wants to go forward, that wants to move forward, maybe move this country, move its people forward. But ultimately, when you put these two goats together, if you stand back far enough, they create one larger one. So, and I don't know if that's just history looking down on the struggle or humanity overall. I mean, chances are my reasoning behind this piece will change in about 5 years if you ask me. Okay. Moving down here, we have one of my favorite comics that I've ever done, which is recently. It is page 2 to my Border X comic. I'm calling this piece Ice Cold, meaning for ICE, the ICE agents, the ICE incarceration camps. This is a story of one young woman who was a teenager, pregnant with her second child, and along with a 2-year-old, that took the brave journey of going over rapids, walking the desert to turn herself in to the immigration in order to try and reunite with her mother in New York, so that way she can have her baby with family. As both the fathers of these 2 children, one to be and one that was already born, had abandoned this woman. This woman was only 17, teenager, and this is about her treatment within these ICE detention facilities, having her and the babies themselves, all the pregnant mothers and babies, lying on cold, ice-cold ground where they would come at 3 a.m. and snatch the cots and pillows away from them. So this is not something I made up. This is me interpreting a sworn testimony given to a court, right at the border. And this is one of many stories. So this is this page will be along with the story and other stories in Border X, which is an anthology that's probably available now. And just look for Mauricio Cordero, who's the publisher. So I was very, very honored to take place in this. But at the same time, it was really, really tough to tell someone's story. It's hard to rationalize that this is some of my best work, most rewarding work, yet I'm telling the story about somebody's worst time, worst experience. And I don't know, I just had to do it in order to get the word out. So there are times where, in order to deal with what's happening around me or what I see happening within the political landscape, I don't even like to call it the political landscape, because ultimately it's our landscape. This landscape is pretty much what is something that continues to be problematic, and if we don't make a change come November, we're going to continue to deal with the fallout. But when I get to a point where I've just had my cup runneth over, then sometimes I have to make a joke and make fun of whatever it is that's ailing me, or whatever it is that's causing me stress or causing me sleepless nights. So this one's called 45 Greases to Freedom, and as you can see, it incorporates certain characteristics of a certain person, and I just felt like it was a good way to incorporate some satire, Mad Magazine, type of humor with just some lowbrow art, as they call it, or pop surrealism. And then as we move over here in the corner here, we've also got some other people's nice work, awesome work. So I'm in good company, as you can see.
Let's start this one over. If you wouldn't mind,
Can we do a cut? Is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah.
Move over here.
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Did you have a glare or good?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. All right, so continue with the satire humor angle. We have what's a take on Norman Rockwell's The Problem We All Live With, which back in if you recall that piece was a black young girl being escorted by the U.S. Marshals to school when segregation was eliminated and the schools were brought together. So people were throwing eggs at this young girl. Why is it always young black girls too that people attack? I mean, so they slaughter the black boys when they're driving, and then they bomb young black girls at churches and when they're trying to integrate into schools. So what I did was take modern day racism and appeal to that Norman Rockwell piece, kind of like bring it up to date with all these particular people right here are individuals that really did call the cops on different types of people, black people who were doing normal things, so existing while black. You had one calling on another little black girl for selling water on a hot day. You had one call the cops on black kids for being at a pool. These two were the pool police. Actually, and then we have the young man who also was the pool police. And then we have the barbecue Becky lady who was calling cops on the people who were barbecuing. I don't know if she didn't like the fact that their food was better. I don't know. But I mean, then we have the one that was calling cops on a college student who was sleeping in the dorms in the commons area, and she woke up to having to worry about the cops being called on her from this girl right here. And then around it is just silhouettes of these different victimized people. So they're just nothing more than shadows and silhouettes, because so often people forget about the victims that actually are in these situations. And and then these people usually end up getting a GoFundMe to pay for whatever legal fees or their trauma, but nobody pays for our trauma. Okay, moving down, we get rid of satire and then we just go with symbolism. This was another interpretation of another painting done by, I believe, an African-American painter. Unfortunately, the name escapes me right now, but I could look it up later on. But basically, we have the Charlton, was it South Carolina? The Jews will not replace us guys with the torches and everything. The tiki torches never, been so prominent inside the media until these guys, decide to rise up with their collared shirts and torches and decide to go on a little rampage. It makes me look at citronella in a whole different way now. Okay. Over here, as we move up the ladder, we've got again police black people being brutalized by the police. Now this was done in 2017, 2018, but I have been fighting with people even on my social media since 2012 was Trayvon, right? I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then 2014, wasn't that Michael Brown? I mean, it's nonstop. It's constant. Okay, and then it goes all the way to the top, right here in this White House, right now. So, if people are represented by their leader, then someone should tell the person in the White House that not all the people are being represented. So unfortunately, that's where we're at, and we're still there. We're still dealing with all this type of mess right now. And that's what kind of motivates my work currently. I used to grow up wanting to do superheroes. Now I feel like there are other crimes that I have to fight with my art, and that's kind of where I'm at as an artist right now and a comic creator.